Welcome to today's session. Really excited to be here today, talking all about mastering marketplace preparedness and global expansion. We have a great lineup here today. I'm going to dive into best practices for expansion. You know, everything's starting early. The first Prime Day already went live. There was so much success in that first Prime Day that we're gearing up for just like a crazy Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So we have the experts here to talk through just preparedness on marketplaces and then how to best tackle global expansion. So we have Oscar, who's the founder of Armor, and the most recent addition to the Hawke family of companies. Very excited to have Oscar here. They're specialized in Amazon and Walmart marketplace. So before we officially kick off, I'm curious who in the audience is currently selling on Amazon or Walmart. Are you selling on Amazon, Walmart? Are you not? Are you thinking about it? So, go ahead and put your answers there. Then we also have Daniel joining. He's the VP of Sales over at Symbio. They're helping with dropship automation. Another area where we're seeing expansion is in just marketplaces as a whole. A lot of brands are selling in a Nordstrom marketplace, Target, online. The barrier to entry is just less when you think about your B2B and wholesale strategy, and really thinking about, that, digital marketplace. So Daniel will be getting into that in our session today. We also have Preeti here, who's joining us. She is the Senior Director of Product over at Passport Shipping, and she'll be talking all about global expansion, all the different considerations, lots of interesting considerations culturally, from a price point, all of these things. So she'll be getting into the details there. So thanks so much for joining us. And before we dive into our content, wanted to say a quick hello, introduce myself. I'm the VP of Partnerships over here at Hawke Media. This will be my 13th Black Friday, Cyber Monday, lucky number 13. It's just been really interesting to see just the evolution of holiday prep over the past decade. I can remember living through those nightmares like firsthand. So a partner like Symbio now just makes everything seamless, which is really cool. So as we enter the Super Bowl season for retail, it's really important for brands to just have key partners in your corner to help kick off success. Operation success, revenue success, all the pieces, bringing them together. So let's take a look back as a starting point. So when we look back to 2023 and what Black Friday and Cyber Monday looked like last year, shoppers spent close to $10 billion on Black Friday alone. Cyber Monday was $12.4 billion. So we're talking billions. So, there's predictions now with social commerce just really taking off. TikTok Shop is an area where we're really seeing brands lean into. We're expecting that number to climb up into the 10 billions for Black Friday. And then Cyber Monday, we could see like 14, 15 billion. So wild and crazy stuff. Good to have good partners in your corner. Mobile sales increased. So some consumer trends, 75% were shopping on mobile, and just the total consumers, 196 million shoppers just online and in store. So it's important to have a strategy that speaks to both your online shoppers and your retail shoppers. You want to meet your customers where they're at. You'll hear this theme throughout all of our speakers today. Start early, especially with this being an election year for your paid media strategy. Bids are going to rise. So now's the time to really nail down your customer acquisition strategy. So that way you have your own customers come holiday time, and you don't have to worry about your customer acquisition costs. Just take it off. Optimize everything now, get everything locked in. A lot of our larger clients are already on code lock. And another interesting piece that is sometimes often overlooked is just ensuring multiple payment options. There's buy now, pay later, making sure that you have access for folks that want to pay via PayPal, etc. So, ensuring you have all your payment gateways set up and all of that is buttoned up and test and pressed and, ready for deployment. So those are some tips and tricks. Without further ado, Oscar will be our first speaker today. So he founded, and for over a decade, he led Armor. They're a global e-com agency, and they're really strategic and tactical at the same time, playing both offense and defense for brands. And he specializes in the growth of international brands. So he's managing director here at Hawke, and came to us through acquisition. We're so happy to have him part of the Hawke family now. So yeah, Oscar, I'll let you take it away. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. First of all, thank you for everybody who has joined us today and everybody who's listening later. As Jen mentioned, I'm the founder and former CEO of Armor, which was recently acquired by Hawke this June, and it's been amazing joining such a team of dynamic professionals and really deep insight across paid search, paid social, paid media, website design. It's really allowed for us to kind of multiply our deep decades-long experience. So, as Jen said, we're both very strategic and very tactical. I want to make sure that everybody that's here is able to benefit. So I will start out with some pretty tactical information that I think everybody can benefit from. And then I kind of want to run through a little bit of the kind of key concepts that we see when we're trying to think about the upcoming promotional season, as well as expanding internationally. So first, I think the first thing are some key dates that should be top of mind. The first is actually August 30th, so that's in one day. If you are running sponsored brands on Amazon, a sponsored brand advertisement on Amazon, and you do not have a custom image attached to that advertisement, it will be paused automatically starting Friday. So if you wake up on Monday and you're like, hey, like 30% of my ad budget hasn't been spent, what's going on? Please look at your images because the system has automatically paused those ads. So that's starting tomorrow. Also huge, sometime in October, unknown, will be the Amazon Prime Big Deals Day. So this is just kind of like Prime Day. They call it Big Deals Day. It is going to take place in October. It will take place around the world, at least in 19 countries. So all of Europe, Brazil, all of North America, Japan, Australia as well, Turkey, Spain. So all the major operating units of Amazon will be participating. Just like normal, they haven't given the date. It's got to be somewhere in mid-October. I don't think it'll come too late in October because that can affect promotional pricing later. So I would expect, early mid-October to see that big Prime Day, Amazon Prime Day, Big Deals Day come through. And again, that's only for Prime members, but there's 100 million or more now, Prime members, or some astronomical number. So it is a very large group of people who are very active on purchasing, products on Amazon. The other thing I just found out was that they actually have different levels of Prime for younger people to lower costs, for people who are 18 to 24, and then some other groups. So that's just an interesting thing I just found out about Prime. Also important is October 16th. You need to have your inventory into the Amazon warehouses by October 16th if you want to have a Prime badge a guaranteed Prime badge on your inventory. This is much earlier than previous years, at least by 2 weeks, if not more than that. And so, the reality is you need to have your shipment plans, in play and in plan and executed over the next kind of 3 to 4 weeks to make sure that you're able to hit that October 16th date. So again, that's Amazon has guaranteed your product will have a Prime badge if you can get your product in by October 16th. Also means you need to plan for that demand, those extra couple weeks in demand. Also huge, on October 23rd, Amazon is going to reduce the look back window on reimbursement claims from currently 18 months. So you can look back 18 months on reimbursement claims and try to reclaim that money currently. Starting October 23rd, they're reducing that down to 2 months. So from 18 months down to 2 months look back. We save our clients, we're able to pull our clients 3 to 5% of their top line revenue on these reimbursements. So if you think about 3 to 5% of Amazon's FBA revenue is held, and is due as reimbursement to brands, and they are now collapsing the window from 18 months to 2, they are taking hundreds of millions of dollars in reimbursements off the table. So if you haven't started, well, you need to start making sure that is a plan and that you're executing that. Internally, we've already started to execute plans to make sure that all of our clients have already started the process on anything that's farther than, as far as we can go back. And we're just making sure that we don't get caught on October 23rd with anything that's beyond that 60-day look back window. So these are key dates. We can send out another list, but, very tactical information that you can use, put them on your calendar, prepare for them, because they will affect profitability, operations, your ability to sell. So sorry, Jen, I don't know if you had something to say, but to hop into the optimize. Go ahead, Jen. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, that's crazy that it's 18 months down to 2 months. So it's like gold information for anyone selling on Amazon to just like get ahead of, and that's only for FBA.
That's on the seller side, correct?
Yeah. So is the move then to switch to like FBM, or like what's the play there?
So really the play is that there are several tools out in the industry that are very good at reclaiming back this revenue. And what they do is they cut tickets and then they follow up. And so I think, and these tools now have existed unfeathered for I'd say about almost 2 years, if not longer. And I think Amazon has decided that, all right, people have gotten good enough at claiming that we can shorten this up and 80% are going to be okay. There's going to be 20% of people who are going to get really irate, but we'll weather that storm. So I think the play is you got to get better, unfortunately. Fortunately, there are a lot of tools. Most of them are completely performance-based, but do come to us because we have negotiated rates with a lot of these tools. And so whatever their market rate is, we're usually seeing, at least 10% less, if not more, on the reclamation rate. So I think the play is get better, but it's pretty easy. These tools are really good. Once you kind of get it set, and it's incredible. I mean, I do have to say, hundreds of thousands of dollars for our clients. It's actually a pleasant thing, but it is money that you're owed ultimately. So it's kind of like taxes, so.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for that.
Cool. So now I was going to hop into the slide really quick and kind of discuss some of the key points that we've seen for optimizing, and planning, and then, kind of a little bit about international expansion. So ultimately right now, as we're approaching into Q4, these are the last moments. These are the last 3 to 4 weeks that you have to really kind of make big changes to your catalog. Selection changes, big pricing changes, anything that's kind of big content changes. This is the moment. And the reason is because you have this flywheel, right? Jeff Bezos said, if you can beat people on convenience, pricing, and selection, that you'll keep people at your website. And if they can easily hop to another website. And that's why we're seeing proliferation of other markets, that we'll talk about later. But basically, it's like if you can keep them on that space, you're going to have this spinning up of this flywheel. And that flywheel needs to stay tight. If you start wobbling with different variables, different information starts to, not be as efficient as it can be. And also what we've seen is when content changes, Amazon bots like to come back and, basically review the content. And so we've ultimately seen, items be taken down, for instance, if there was a big, massive content change. We had one client, for instance, who insisted on updating their content. They decided to put the words growing young hearts and minds in their content. An Amazon bot that looks for pesticides saw the word grow, thought it was a pesticide, pulled it down basically a day before Thanksgiving. It's very hard to prove a book is not a pesticide. It takes a long time. So that wasn't good. So basically, we like to have a 45-day cool out period where basically we don't change content. That would put us at about October 15th is where we like to kind of say, all right, let's have our content set. And this is what we're riding with, good, bad, or indifferent. This is what we got. And then we can figure out the rest as we're continuing down the process. The other thing is now is the time to drive these reviews as well. You want to build up all those credibility, as much credibility as you can in these couple weeks, because they will pay dividends as we're marching through these other parts of the season and as traffic is starting to grow and then starts to come back down on Amazon. The next thing I'll say is, we have the incredible philosopher, Mike Tyson, who said everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And, it's basically the same idea that, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. It's about, the variability that exists in life and the resiliency that's required to live through that variability. And that's what happens in Amazon and on these marketplaces. As you set your plans, people start showing up, people start buying more of something that you thought, less of something else. Things are, not going exactly as you had planned it. And what we really try to have our clients think about, and what we've seen over the years, is the more that you can just stick to your plan. Stick to the plan that you have. Now, I'm not saying don't plan. This is the time now to think about what happens if we sell more of this or less of that. What happens if we burn budget here? What happens if, come up with a couple different scenarios, couple different pivot points now, pre-planned pivot points now, so that if you do want to execute something in the process, you already have them planned out. But if you don't have it planned, we've seen a lot of people kind of bounce back and forth like little ping pong balls as things are starting to heat up. And it leads to two things. One, it leads to a lot of wasted effort. And it also leads to a lot of confusion afterwards. What was successful? What wasn't? Yeah. And that is actually more penalizing than the activity or the few lost sales or gain sales in the actual event. So really, we recommend people stick to your guns, plan now, think about a couple pivots, and then hold to it and see what happens. And we see a lot of that movement also in pricing and in budgets. As I said, time to build awareness and reviews. This is the time to do it. And so we really want to make sure that we focus on that. And then I guess I want to take a pause. These are the first three things that we really want to build and get nailed in this time of year. The next two, I think, unless you really have the first three nailed down, I think the next two are plans to think about. It's a good time to view what is happening in other operating units of Amazon. So if it's, global, foreign operating units, or even the cultural nuances that exist in other markets. This is, I think, a very good time of year to see what's happening in those marketplaces. Jen, would you like to?
Yeah, no, that makes sense, especially like the global considerations. And I like the idea of pre-planned pivot points, because it's like you can do the if then, and you can have that lined up. So you have that workflow just, so you're not just scrambling in the moment to figure out what to do. And then just getting ahead of it, and starting early. So I think those are I like pre-planned pivot points. I like alliteration. Helps remember things.
Absolutely. So I think, when we think about, we'll definitely talking more about the international expansion. And I do want to say that the idea of holding to your content, having a plan, and the building of reviews, those concepts hold true for Walmart.com as well. These are fundamental concepts that need to be executed for any e-commerce marketplace position. So I do want to make that note. And then when we think about international expansion, because that is actually one of the key things, Amazon has built the same little bicycle. It's the same little machinery. And then they've just dropped it in a bunch of different countries. And so if you can legally get that product into that country, and it can be warehoused and taxation and basically importation and regulatory adherence. If you can check all those boxes, then you can bring that product into that Amazon ecosystem, and it will be stored, it will be executed with the same efficiency that exists in the US. And so that is a very powerful capability, because once you've kind of optimized for certain things, images, content, and prices, and we'll talk a little bit about adapting that content for cultural nuances, but there are going to be some fundamental things, the way that the data is structured. All of that will be transferable, and it's a huge save of time and effort when you are able to set up these items in these other countries and turn them on as they become legally purchasable in that country. I do want to mention something about pricing in this component, because I think it's very important that everybody get a very good understanding of their unit economics by item, by sales channel, by country.
Mm-hmm.
That is, if you can get a sense of that, then you can start to think about how much you can invest in marketing, how much each unit is worth to you. One thing I'll also recommend, and one thing we've really worked hard with a lot of clients, is getting that profit per unit the same, so that they are agnostic to which channel it sells. And it means different end prices, because there's different costs to get into Germany, to get into different places. But the reality is the consumer in those markets are already used to those structured costs. So that's what we've worked really hard with, because when we see a difference in profitability, there becomes a misalignment of incentives and actions and investment. And we really want to try to, go where the demand is. And so you should be incentivized to really try to figure out where the demand is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're not like scraping margin a little bit here and scraping margin a little bit there. Then it's like, then you have a slow leak to deal with, profit leak to deal with. So that makes sense. So, something that I think is important too is talking about kind of like best practices on platform too. Yeah. So what does it look like to succeed? And, I think we have like some examples here, like best sellers. How can a brand best position their, for brand affinity on Amazon? And then also just for, like you mentioned, prioritized by profit, by the goods, by SKU and things like that. What are some best practices there?
So I think this is why it's really important that Symbio and Passport are on this webinar with us, because clarity in your costs, clarity in your information is going to ultimately be what you're going to use to defend yourself and to understand where you're pricing and what your targets should be in each one of these countries. And so, I think when we look at best practices, it very much is cultural related. And so, for instance, I wanted to take an example of a ready-to-drink manufacturer, a beverage manufacturer. And beverages are great products to sell on Amazon. There's high repeat purchasing. The manufacturing is it's a good thing to go after. But if you're this beverage manufacturer and you say, hey, I want to take over the US, what you'll see in the right-hand image is that you need to come to market in an RTD, a ready-to-drink. You'll also see that the reviews that we have, the target reviews that you should be looking at are, in the thousands, if not, a little bit higher, because the best products have hundreds of thousands of reviews. And the star rating that you're looking at, that you're targeting, it's got to be 4.3, and plus. And really working on going through reviews that are negative, that are not about your product, getting those out of the way, and then figuring out what is your product missing that you can, through the reviews, reading those reviews, to then try to update and figure out. That's for the US, and that's to make it in the US. But then let's say you're like, hey, I want to internationally expand, and I want to go to Germany, which is one of the largest foreign operating units for Amazon. Well, if you look there, it's not RTD. It's a concentrate that goes into water. And it's a sachet that goes, and that's a very different product format. And so that can be part of what you need to do, is identify, hey, where's my initial market that I'm really trying to execute in? Those players, what are the base level metrics that they're showing? And the base level metrics are going to be on pricing, they're going to be on reviews, and they're going to be on content. Look at those images. What are they showing you? And you're going to want to mirror that, because those people have spent a lot of time and money figuring that out. And then when you do expand internationally, you have to make sure that the format's making sense. So, if you decide to go to India with a beverage, that's not going to be very popular. It's the 61st item is Sprite. That's the highest beverage in their top 50 in their grocery. So, it's just you really have to pay attention. And I think that's why this is a good time of year to go look at those other websites, see what's selling, see what people are buying, and say, okay, where does this fall in line with my product development? And where does this fall in line with where I want to take this product? I think sachets, for instance, are a great idea for beverages because they don't weigh a lot, and then you can pack a lot in and you can a high value to a customer. But it does mean that the person has a different way of consuming it than in the US. So those are kind of some of the things I would look at and think about, when I'm thinking about what are best practices. I think there's a lot you can mimic from some of the key brands on specific metrics, and then you take your own branding, your own identity, your own way of doing things and apply that because that's what the customer really wants.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think, all of these cultural considerations too are so important. So, as brands are thinking about expanding into new markets, expanding globally, if you want advice on best practice, Oscar helped build out the Canadian market for Amazon. So he knows that well. And, he has worked across, hundreds and hundreds of brands to help them expand. So, feel free to reach out, and then we'll be doing complimentary strategy sessions as well. So next we have Daniel. Daniel's also been in this space for quite a while. So I'm sure you've seen it all. 15 years in e-commerce, background in marketing, sales. You've worked at Impurity, SimilarWeb, BuyWith, and now you head up sales and marketing. So thanks for being with us today, and I'll let you take it away.
Thanks so much, Jen. It's great to be here. Let me go forward. So, when we look to see where the trends are coming from, we often look at some of the big brands in the space. And I think when you see a lot of the top brands, Adidas, Prada, Nike, Levi's, Allbirds, are really taking significant bets on marketplaces. They see that the future of their business is going to be very important to have a significant place in marketplaces. And likewise, the retailers themselves are also thinking the same. And so we see new marketplaces popping up. Nordstrom has recently launched their marketplace. Hearst has launched new marketplaces and is continuing to open new marketplaces. So this is something that we see more and more brands take action on. And there's a few reasons why. I think brands are feeling more pressure now than ever, both on their D2C business as acquisition costs. The cost of acquiring users from Instagram and TikTok and Facebook are just so expensive, and there's more competition every day. On the other side, the sort of traditional wholesale business is, I speak to a lot of brands that are telling me that it's getting harder every year to get the same orders as the last year because retailers are looking to de-risk their business. They are not wanting to hold the inventory and take the risk by making big purchases up front. And so there's this sort of hybrid model of marketplace that has really grown significantly. And so when Forrester ran a report and interviewed quite a few brands, and they saw that online marketplace is actually growing faster than wholesale for almost 80% of businesses. I don't think that's such a surprise to most people, but this is one of the fastest channels in commerce right now for growth. And I think in such a time as we're in today, brands need a way to protect themselves and diversify and expand. And so whether that expansion is by adding additional assortments. So a lot of brands we speak to don't actually realize that if they're already selling through a retailer through wholesale, they can actually also sell through their marketplace through additional assortments. So it's actually a way to not replace, but actually supplement your existing wholesale order. In other cases, you can replenish your wholesale order as well. So if you have certain SKUs, as soon as they run out through wholesale, they can start being shipped through the dropship model. It's also a really popular way for brands to enter into new markets. It's very difficult. I mean, Oscar was talking about this as well, but the ability to enter into a market through wholesale or D2C can take quite a long time in terms of getting the brand awareness and closing these big deals with wholesalers, where marketplace is a much simpler way to get traction into a new market as well.
I think too, then there's that insight and there's that data on that market too. And, once you have that like geographical data and you're starting to understand how your products are performing out in the wild, then you can expand from there, right? You have like a jumping off point, which is really cool. And, I heard the buzz about Hearst, but I didn't realize that the marketplace actually like stuck. So what's interesting is there's these media properties that are expanding into marketplace. So there's the meeting consumer where they're at model that's happening. And I like that you mentioned just different assortments for those different strategies too, because then you can get an idea of performance. Like how would a media property perform, like that type of marketplace versus like, a Nordstrom or a Neiman's? Because when I think of Hearst, I know they were doing some luxury retailer stuff. Are they still, is that the direction they went? That's like cool that it all came to be.
It is. I think Hearst is doing some interesting things. They've built up quite a few media properties that are very successful. And what they're doing is instead of using the traditional affiliate model where a consumer reads an article about men's health, for example, and then there's an ad and they're redirected to Macy's or Nordstrom, they said, hey, we can actually take the transaction on our website and keep the continuity with that user experience. And so Shop Bazaar is an example of a Hearst outlet, but they're opening quite a few marketplaces so that when people are reading articles on their various properties, that they can just transact there. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and they don't have to click, click out too. So it's a higher likelihood of conversion for a brand too, which is cool. So it's like, that same TikTok shop model and, the Instagram shopping and like all of these things now. I think we're starting to see different platforms really embrace it. So cool. We'll have to chat more about the Hearst thing offline. Yeah.
Definitely.
And you mentioned like, oh, sorry, I wanted to, are you ready to move forward to the slide? I just started driving, I realized, because I wanted to talk about the time of the barrier of entry too. I think that's such a, like 3 to 6 months or 6 to 9 months or whatever you talked about for onboarding to a new marketplace. I just think about trying to get Dior Cosmetics into Neiman's back in the day in Asia, the Asia Pacific market. It took like 2 years for us to do that deal. And if a digital marketplace would exist that time years ago, it just would have been a much easier barrier to entry. So 3 to 9 months is pretty crazy for onboarding.
Yeah, definitely. So, if once you kind of understand that marketplace is a significant part or should be a significant part of your strategy, the next question is, okay, so operationally, how do I make this happen? And there's 2 paths, really. You can decide to do it yourself, which some brands do. And these are some of the challenges that we hear from brands that come to us after trying to do it themselves, as opposed to using a company that sort of puts all of this on, all the operations on what we call autopilot. And so when you're looking to onboard to each new marketplace, typically, it's going to take 3 to 9 months, depending on the complexity of the brand, et cetera. But I've spoken to brands that have taken longer and some have taken shorter. But, this is a very expensive endeavor as well. Forrester estimates that the average cost of onboarding a new marketplace is about $16,000 for every week of implementation. And so if we calculate how many weeks are in 3 to 9 months, it's a very expensive endeavor. And we're just talking about one marketplace. If you're a brand and you want to go live on 5, 10, 15 marketplaces, it just quickly, the cost gets out of hand. And then once you're up and running on a marketplace, your job is unfortunately not done. You're going to have to upload every new product assortment, and that's fitting to the individual retailer's requirements. Every retailer has individual requirements, whether it's Saks, 24S, Harrods, Neiman's, as you mentioned, TikTok. Every single one has different requirements. And so when you're uploading new products, images have to be reformatted, whether that's the file type, the background, the naming, the model and the photo. And so each retailer has their requirements, and that goes for products. It goes for images as well. And then once the orders start coming in, somebody is going to have to manage those orders, manually. They're going to have to process the orders and make changes to pricing and update their inventory. One of the challenges we hear specifically with brands that are doing this manually is that their inventory is not always up to date. And the problem is then you have two problems. You have one, risk of overselling. So the dreaded customer experience, if a customer buys a product that they want, and then it turns out that product's actually not in stock. And so they've oversold, and now they have to cancel the order, and they don't actually get the money that they were hoping to get. On the flip side, showing products that are out of stock when they're actually not out of stock because you're manually updating inventory and missed the sale. And so these are things that brands typically struggle with. And then the endless errors, because there always are going to be errors, and not knowing, is the error on my end, is it on the retailer end? Retailers are constantly changing their structure, their taxonomy, or other ways, so that the brands have to make changes all the time. It's not like once you've set it up, you're able to work with this retailer indefinitely. You have to be ready for their next update, and be able to make changes to the taxonomy. So those are the challenges that brands face, and that's really where we decided to focus as a business, is putting all of these operations on autopilot. So from products to images, pricing, inventory, returns, even financial reconciliation, all of that is done automatically, and we support 800 marketplaces. So it's pretty incredible that there are 800 marketplaces. There are, I think, actually more, but we currently support 800 and currently adding more. And so, for the brand, as I mentioned, such a quick way to get in front of millions or tens of millions of consumers, where otherwise, the cost of getting in front of them with ads or through wholesale is just so prohibitive. And so here's just a few examples of some of the connections, retailers, channels that we support. TikTok Shop is one that was mentioned a few times, and we agree, Jen, that this is one of the most the hottest, the most requested channel. And I think what's interesting about TikTok Shop specifically is they have a very wide demographic. I think most people assume this is all Gen Z. Actually, their demographic of, I think, 55 plus is as big as their Gen Z demographic. So it's not just a Gen Z application. It's also not just for low end or medium end products. Even some of the luxury brands are selling and planning to sell there as well. So really a vast swath of our customer base onboarding to TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok Shop is taking off, and it's taken off hot. My dad is on TikTok now, and he's 76, and he sends me these hilarious. It's mainly pet videos, and then there's plugs about pet products and stuff. But I'm like, wow, Dad, look at you go. So yeah, the older generation, even Bob Root is on TikTok these days. So who would have thunk?
For sure. So I've mentioned a few examples, but just two brands that we work with. So Bench, after working with Symbio, they actually saw 100% increase in their e-commerce sales. So it's, this is both a testament of Symbio, but also of the power of marketplaces. Being able to launch 9 marketplaces in 12 months is pretty much impossible without using a automation solution like Symbio. And what was also really important for Bench is, like any other channel or initiative you do, not everything is going to work. There is an optimization period and a testing period. And so not all 9 of those marketplaces were, the most successful. There were some that they needed to cut and others that they needed to focus on. And for Bench, some of the outcomes wasn't for them just the increase in e-commerce sales, but they actually saw their wholesale business with a lot of these marketplaces increases. Some of them, they were able to land new wholesale orders, and others they had existing orders, and they were able to strengthen those orders and grow those orders. Marketplace dropship even outperformed their .com site for 2 of their key markets. And then Cynthia Rowley is another example, more in the luxury space, of went live on a lot of the key luxury retailers like Saks and Neiman's and Anthropologie and Nordstrom. and her testament of being able to get in front of these high quality retail partners and the consumers, the new audiences that, like I mentioned, is so prohibitive in terms of cost for your .com site, or so lengthy in terms of the wholesale site. It's such a quick way for them to get in front of the audiences and up-level their brand and have the association with the Saxes and the Nordstroms that really can have a big impact on brands.
Yeah. And they make incredible dresses. Like, I love Cynthia Rowley dresses. Huge fan of that brand. So that's really cool. So you helped to launch their marketplace, and they saw quite an increase. 400% is nothing to sneeze at. That's really cool.
Yeah, they and Cynthia Rowley herself is very involved, and she's wonderful to work with. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, she's kind of an icon. So that's to know that the woman behind the brand is also, tried and true. Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. So last slide from myself. As part of benefit of being on the Hawke Media webinar, we are providing a significant discount for all new customers, which is valid through the end of this calendar year. We are waiving all implementation fees. So some of the implementations are simpler, some are much more complex, but regardless of the fee will be 100% waived for anybody that comes from this webinar. So
awesome. Good stuff. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate you being here and just offering insights. Sounds like you're streamlining things that were major pain points for me personally years ago. So wish I would have known you then, and wish the technology existed then. But instead I was in black screens and like Microsoft DOS, like with green things blinking at me, trying to do inventory and stuff like that, which wasn't always perfect. It actually really wasn't ever perfect. So thanks for helping out brands of all sizes just expand and land and grow. And thanks for being here with us today. So next up we have Preeti. She's also been in the business for 15 years, and she's a cross-border specialist. So really she specializes in facilitating global reach for major brands through Passport. She's an expert in logistics tech, and she worked with top retailers like Saks, J.Crew, and she led programs at eBay and Amazon. So we're so happy to have you, and thanks for sharing Passport with our community today. I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Jen. I'm really happy to be here and talk about cross-border e-commerce with your audience here. So I have worked and built software for many years for marketplaces and for retailers to help them sell better globally and ship better globally, both of those aspects. So worked on a lot of different areas when you have to think about selling across the border, including compliance, global trade, the changing rules and laws that countries keep bringing forth, like Brexit, and the changes that Australia and New Zealand have recently made on their GST. So you have to keep up with a lot when you are thinking about selling and shipping cross-border. So my focus here is going to be simplifying some of those things. It looks daunting, and this is where I want to help simplify. So let's start. So I'm not going to focus on a lot of different aspects. I want to just get down to the basics here and talk about place, price, and experience. So first things first, we should not try and sell everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean every country. It is not important for you to sell to every single country that is out there. What would work better is if you picked a few geographies, a few countries where you have demand and really do a good job selling in those countries and really getting good order conversion. That would help you grow more. So use tools like SimilarWeb to focus where your traffic, your website traffic, and customer demand is coming from. So these tools, they show you who's looking at your store and where are they coming from. So then you can, and Amazon also has a tool in their Seller Central, which helps you identify which of your categories have a global demand. So focus on specific geographies and focus on those specific categories and do a really good job selling them. So that'll make a big difference in helping you grow globally.
Mhm.
Okay. Very important, make sure that you can ship where you're aiming to sell. Countries have different licensing requirements. Europe has different packaging requirements, especially if you're in the nutraceutical or the beauty business. So think about these requirements, educate yourself about requirements in these countries before you start selling, because you don't want to find out on the day that you ship that your packaging is not approved by Germany. So you don't want to find that out. So do some research in advance. All right, number 2, pricing. Oscar touched upon this, so I will expand a little bit more. The obvious strategy here is to use the tools that the marketplace is offering you to show prices in local currencies, so consumers can decide quickly and easily. Like, nobody has to do mental math that, this is in USD, I'm paying in euros, how much am I supposed to pay? So that's, yes, absolutely, do that. But it is important to find the optimal price of your products for your target geographies. Very important to find what is the optimal price. Like Oscar was talking about, know your unit economics. Costs in shipping internationally are higher. Understand what your costs for shipping internationally are and don't lose that profit that you would see with your domestic shipping costs. So what I have learned working international e-commerce for all these years is most products have some elasticity baked into them when it comes to global pricing. There is some pricing elasticity baked into your product. And a lot of brands ignore this and leave money on the table when it comes to global selling. You shouldn't just convert the price from US dollar to euros and just sell at that price. Try to understand what is it that the consumers are seeing in the local market for a comparable product, and price according to that. It would work to your advantage to do some pricing tests ahead of the peak season to find that right regional price for your product. You can run some quick tests and observe order conversion rates and see how far you can push the price without impacting conversion. We have seen that companies can easily bake in 5 to 8% of margin before consumers start to notice and the conversion starts getting impacted. We had one brand that was selling a specific product, and the consumers in Australia somehow really resonated with that product that they were selling, and they were able to add 18% margin on their product prices without impacting any conversion to Australian consumers, just Australian consumers. So doing some testing will help you capture some margin that you may be leaving on the table, without that. So want to make sure that you're aware of that.
Yeah, don't be afraid of markups. So
Yes,
that's really cool. 18% in Australia. So I think, we always talk about product market fit, right? But there's also product market and like profit fit, pricing fit, all of that. And, as brands should not be afraid to mark up. Because if the demand is there,
Why not?
then there you go. Yeah.
Why not take advantage of it? If you have something that is resonating with a specific target market in a country, capture that. It is your time to capture it. Use your TikTok videos to capture it. Okay, next. Do not ignore shipping experience. Pay some attention to shipping experience as well. If you're selling low AOV items, low average order value items, a lot of the brands still think that shipping internationally, DDU, delivery and duty unpaid, is okay, which may be the right strategy for low AOVs. But once you're getting at the $35, $40 mark, it is a good idea to start offering DDP shipping, because that gives your consumer a better delivery experience. It will clear in customs faster. They will be able to, most of the DDP shipping is trackable, so they'll be able to track it end to end, and also the SLAs are also higher. So consider using DDP shipping, and even express shipping. If you are above the $100 mark, think about offering express shipping, because people want their stuff fast. Amazon has spoiled all of us, and we want it fast. So consider multiple shipping options before you choose one. And try and offer multiple shipping options to your consumers so they have a choice.
Yeah. I think that's so true. It's like, we want the world and we want it yesterday.
Exactly.
So what are some good ways to get ahead of rising costs with carriers and things like that? Because with quick shipping also comes, that uptick in price. So is there any best advice as far as offering shipping that's next day, same day, et cetera, but helping keep costs low for a brand?
Yeah, so this is where your pricing strategy can be deployed by offering flat shipping or free shipping threshold above a certain thresholds to your consumers to get better order conversion. So overall, you can get better economics on your international orders, because those prices are what they are. And those GRIs, yearly GRIs, are what they are. So try to, we have seen that flat shipping and free shipping definitely is a huge driver in order conversion. It basically eliminates decision-making on the consumer's part when they see free shipping or flat shipping. And you can use pricing strategies to bake in some of that cost into your product price, so the consumer is not seeing all of it on the screen, while improving order conversion, so you're able to keep your profits.
That makes sense. So so putting guardrails based on product and margin and things like that.
Exactly. Yes.
That's super, super good advice. Thank you for that.
I'm going to go a little bit faster. I know we only have 4 minutes left. I want to make sure that we are keeping time. So time is also important. So make sure, I did not plan it this way. Make sure that you are timing your sales right as well. We know, and this is focused on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and we know this is a global holiday now, but understand that in other countries, even though this could be a big holiday, but there are bigger holidays in those countries. As an example, in India, Diwali is bigger than Black Friday. In Canada, Thanksgiving falls in October. So plan your sales and plan your marketing pushes a little, and if you are doing these for international, around the international holidays. And we here have a free holiday calendar for the participants of this webinar that you guys can utilize and plan a little bit better for your international geography, so you can get the most of your marketing, most return of your marketing investment that you're making into these international geographies.
Yeah. And, there's the demographic considerations too for, those that came from out of country that now live here in the US too, that may be celebrating those holidays. So, there's like demographic data, list segmentation, marketing strategy that you can do to meet your, multicultural customers too. So I think this calendar is gold. There's there's Asia Pacific holidays on here. There's everybody. So
yes, it's all over the world, and it's all 12 months. So, not just the holiday season, every month. So yeah.
Every month there's an opportunity to have a promotion somewhere for something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So I also want to touch upon, a success story from our side where we helped a brand, increase their international revenue, get better conversion, and also, increase their shipping volumes and customer satisfaction. So, this is planning a little bit goes a long way in better volumes, better customer satisfaction.
Yeah. And now these guys are in 36 countries. So that's pretty cool.
And they love it.
Yeah. I think my sister uses this because it's for like, if you're sensitive too. I recommend this brand. Yeah.
I think it was started by a dermatologist. If I don't
okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
All right. And we also have an offer for the people attending this webinar of a $2,500 shipping credit that you can use from now until October 31st.
Very cool. Well, we'll be sharing all of these offers, all of these opportunities with those that were in attendance today. And then this is also the first of Black Friday, Cyber Monday series too. So we'll be sharing this with our whole audience that comes into the series from now through November. So, for those that are here today, there will be a part 2 and a part 3 that we'll be sharing with a lot of awards and spiffs and, just benefits to just really ensure that that your brand has just a very successful Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So thank you all for being here today. Much appreciated. Thank you to Preeti, to Oscar, to Daniel for sharing all your tips and tricks you've learned along the way just to create success for everyone here. Thank you. And then we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye.